Hello everyone and welcome back to another Fam 2 Cents cooking video. And today the thing that I'm making isn't really a dish I guess I could properly identify, or something that people would recognize the moment they see it. It's kind of something that I just made because I thought it would be good, and it's literally just meatballs and mushrooms and a garlic sauce, basically. So I mean, that's essentially what this is. And I thought it would be good, so I decided to make it, and I was right. It turned out to be pretty good. So first things first, as you can see, I am making the beef broth over on the side here. I put a little vegetable oil into the pot on the side so I can get the meatballs going. And if you guys watched my stream where I made homemade spaghetti, I had a bunch of meatballs on the side. Because I made way too many, and these were in the freezer. So I like storing food like this for future references. I always end up making a little more than I need. So these are frozen, and I had them in the freezer as leftover meatballs from the spaghetti that I made, and now I'm making them now to make this particular dish. So it's good to kind of utilize your resources like that. It makes things a little easier when it comes to cooking future meals or whatever. So I tossed them right in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and pan sear them as I always do. You'll notice in this video that they got a little charred, like probably a little more charred than I originally intended. But it's fine, because once they go into the sauce, that adds like a lot of flavor and everything, so that wasn't really a big deal for me. But I did have the oil a bit higher than I probably should have, so it is what it is. Not all cooking comes out exactly perfect the way you want it, and as long as it still tastes good in the end, you're fine. It's cool. I'm not cooking for rich people or celebrity or anything like that. I'm sure my squishy will be fine. And plus, like I said, it was really good, so no biggie. Next up, I went on ahead taking care of the mushrooms. For the most part, I kept them whole, which I don't usually do. I don't usually cook mushrooms whole. I just took the stems off, basically, and kept the caps whole. And the ones that were particularly large, I either cut in half or cut in fours, just so they weren't like crazy huge. You know, just to, you know, I didn't want any of them to be too big, because Squishy does like them. Which is great. Now I'm glad she does enjoy mushrooms now, but you know, not everybody's okay with putting an entire freaking mushroom you know, just eating it as a whole like that. So I tried to make them a little more manageable, which was fine. Went on ahead and chopped those up, and I used the leftover oil in the bottom of the pan, tossed some butter in there, and went on ahead and sauteed and tossed the mushrooms in there, which is how I make the base for my sauce. So we're gonna toss those in there with that, give it a little seasoning with some garlic salt, and just kind of toss it around for a little bit and get those to kind of render out a little bit, because they're gonna shrink, and that's what you kind of want them to do. And mushrooms are very absorbent, so they're gonna soak up all that flavor down there. And then you deglaze the pan after they're done with or the pot in this instance, with the broth that I have sitting on the side in order to make the sauce. Didn't go too heavy on the seasonings because there's a lot of flavor already in there. As I said, I just added garlic, salt, and pepper. Nothing too big, just to kind of, you know, just give it a little something. But the meatballs themselves provided a lot of flavor, and the shrooms, once you cook them in that leftover grease and butter from the meatballs or whatever, they retain a lot of that flavor too, so no heavy seasoning necessary. So yeah, once your mushrooms are cooked to your liking and they've cooked down to the point to where you're happy with, I went ahead and used the beef broth to go ahead and deglaze the pot and get all those flavors to know each other a little bit. And once I brought that back up to kind of a boil, I went on ahead and incorporated the meatballs into it, and prepped myself to get ready to start cooking the egg noodles, because that's what I made with this. Just regular cheap egg noodles, nothing too serious. I did screw up when I was cooking them, because while I was making the noodles, I kind of ran off to went to go do something else that I was working on, and forgot that I had them on, and they were pretty overcooked. Not that I particularly have a problem with that, because I don't really like egg noodles al dente or whatever. Overcooked is another issue, but it's fine. It was one of those things where it's like it's fine. The dish isn't ruined because of that, but you know, it is what it is. Once I added the noodles, the final thing that I needed to do was take a little cornstarch and water and kind of mix that together and pour that into what I want it to be, a gravy, to make it the consistency that I want it to be. I mean, technically you could have cooked it down, but I wanted the sauce to be a bit thicker than it was going to be even if I cooked it down, because it was pretty thin. So using this method is a good way to kind of get it to that consistency you want it. So some people use flour, and they at the point where I made the mushrooms, after the mushrooms were done, I would have added flour at that point and allowed the flour to cook down and then added the broth. But this is a good way to do that if you didn't do it afterwards. Cornstarch is a good way to mix it up. Now, the consistency, if you're going to store this later, gets kind of gelatinous, I guess. But once you warm it up, it goes back down anyway, so it's fine. It's not that big a deal. Whichever way you feel is better, whichever way works better for you, especially if you plan on having leftovers, you do it however you feel it works. But yeah, after everything was said and done, this is what the dish turned out to look like, and I was pretty happy with it. The sauce was just as thick as I wanted it to be. I wanted to make sure I had a sauce that kind of stuck to the food really good. And like I said, the noodles were a bit overcooked, but it was fine, and I really enjoyed it. Squishy really liked it too, but she's not used to having mushrooms in her dish that are just as big as the meatballs, so that threw her off a little bit, and she was like, "You can cut them a little finer for me specifically." And I was like, "Okay, babe, I got you." But other than that, it was good. It was a delicious, easy thing to make, and I enjoyed it. So with all of that out of the way, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and support the channel in any way that you can. Donation links are down below. We also have merch links and everything like that. My daughter is going to be born very soon. We'll be heading to the doctor tomorrow to check and if Squishy needs to be induced or not. But any help I can get is greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching these videos, and I'll see you guys on the next one.